I remember the precise moment it all began to unravel, the rush of forbidden excitement mixed with a twinge of guilt that I quickly shoved aside. It was supposed to be a simple weekend getaway, a chance to escape the monotony of daily life and the ever-widening gap between my husband and me. But there, amidst the laughter and too many glasses of wine, I found myself drawn to him, my best friend's fiancé. It was madness, a lapse in judgment that spiraled out of control faster than I could catch my breath. "We shouldn't be doing this," I whispered, the words barely audible over the pounding of my heart as we stole away from the party, seeking the shadows where our indiscretion could remain hidden. "Just this once," he replied, his voice a mix of desire and reassurance that this was nothing more than a fleeting moment of weakness. But once turned into twice, and before I knew it, we were entangled in a web of secret meetings and lies, each one piling on top of the last, making it harder to see a way out. My husband, ever the trusting soul, began to notice the late nights and the sudden changes in my schedule. I could see the questions in his eyes, the unspoken concerns that he was too kind to voice. "Everything okay?" he'd ask, his voice laced with a worry that I dismissed with a kiss and a lie about work stress. As my best friend's wedding drew nearer, the guilt that I'd been dodging settled heavily on my shoulders. I was helping her plan the happiest day of her life, all the while betraying her in the worst possible way. The irony wasn't lost on me, but the fear of losing everything kept me silent. Then, one evening, the precarious house of cards we'd built came crashing down. My husband found the messages, his face a mask of confusion and hurt as he read the words that confirmed his worst fears. "Is this true?" he asked, holding up his phone like a verdict that I couldn't escape. I wanted to deny it, to find some way to erase the evidence and make him believe that it was all a misunderstanding. But the look in his eyes, a blend of betrayal and heartbreak, stripped me of any excuses. "It's not what you think," I started, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. But even as I said them, I knew it was over. The truth, once out in the open, couldn't be taken back. In the thick of confrontation, my heart raced, a guilty rabbit trapped by the headlights of truth. My husband's eyes, usually so warm and trusting, now bore into me with a hurt that cut deeper than any words could. "Tell me it's not true," he pleaded, his voice a mixture of hope and despair. I could feel the lies tangling on my tongue, ready to weave another deceitful web. "It was nothing, a mistake," I stammered, trying to diminish the gravity of my betrayal. The words felt hollow, even to my own ears, a pathetic attempt to gloss over the gaping wound I'd inflicted on our marriage. His response was a cold, hard line drawn in the sand. "It's me or him," he declared, the ultimatum hanging between us like a guillotine ready to fall. "We get help, or it's over." In that moment, desperation took hold. I promised to end the affair, to do whatever it took to mend the fractures in our relationship. But even as I vowed to cut ties with the other man, a part of me balked at the thought of letting go. The thrill of the secret, the intoxication of being wanted, it was a drug I wasn't ready to quit. Behind the scenes, my husband became a detective in his own home, his love for me driving him to seek the ugly truth. He gathered evidence of my continued betrayal, photos, messages, a digital trail of deceit that I'd been too careless to cover completely. Each piece a damning confirmation of my duplicity. The confrontation with my lover was inevitable. My husband, fueled by a righteous anger, faced him with the evidence of our affair. "You think you can just take what's mine?" he demanded, voice shaking with rage. The other man's response was a sneer, a dismissive shrug that stoked the flames of my husband's fury. "She came to me," he retorted, words dripping with arrogance, as if our affair was nothing more than a casual diversion. I watched, a silent observer to the crumbling of my world, as two men stood on the brink of violence, driven by love and betrayal. My heart, once divided, now ached with regret for the pain I'd caused, the realization dawning too late that some mistakes carved too deep a chasm to ever fully bridge again. The air was thick with unspoken truths, the kind that suffocate a room, leaving you gasping for breath. It was during one of those endless, tension-filled dinners at our house, me, my husband, my best friend, and her fiancé, that I felt the weight of suspicion heavy in her gaze. She had started piecing together the mismatched puzzle of our strained interactions, the lingering looks, the awkward silences. "Is everything okay between you two?" she asked, her voice laced with concern, yet sharp with the edge of suspicion. I could feel my husband's eyes on me, a silent plea for honesty. It was the push I needed to shatter the facade. Later that night, with the weight of guilt bearing down on me, I confessed. I made a mistake, I admitted, the words tumbling out in a rush of fear and relief. The look of betrayal on his face was a punch to the gut, a physical manifestation of the emotional wreckage I had caused. His decision came swiftly, a band-aid ripped from a festering wound. I can't do this. I need space to think, he said, the finality in his voice signaling the beginning of our separation. It was a decision that cracked the very foundation of our life together, each of us retreating to our corners of hurt and confusion. As if the personal turmoil wasn't enough, the fallout began to spread like wildfire through our social circle. Whispers turned into loud declarations, each friend taking sides, casting judgments, and widening the chasm that had opened up between us. The community we had built together crumbled, leaving us isolated in our respective spheres of pain and regret. The final nail in the coffin was the discovery of a recording, a moment of vulnerability captured on audio, my voice admitting to the affair. It was undeniable proof for my husband, a reason to solidify his decision to leave. How could you? He asked, the recording playing back my own words to me, a mirror reflecting the worst parts of myself. In that moment, I realized the magnitude of my actions, the ripple effect of hurt that extended far beyond the confines of my marriage. The trust we had built over years was shattered, leaving behind a debris field of broken relationships, lost friendships, and irrevocable changes to the fabric of our lives. The path forward was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The consequences of my choices would haunt me for a long time to come. I never imagined that the truth, once my closest ally, would become the blade poised at the heart of my world. As the debate raged within the confines of my husband's mind, whether to shatter the illusion of happiness surrounding my best friend with the harsh reality of betrayal, I found myself wrestling with a mix of fear and a perverse sense of relief. The truth deserved its freedom, yet I dreaded its release, knowing the devastation it would wreak. The decision, when it came, was a solemn nod across our kitchen table, the battleground of our fractured relationship. She deserves to know, he said, his voice steady but heavy with the weight of impending fallout. He had gathered evidence, texts, and whispers of indiscretions captured in digital form, preparing to lay bare the secret that had eroded our lives from within. The confrontation between my best friend and her fiancé was a scene I replayed in my mind 1,000 times, each iteration a dagger twisting deeper into the guilt that consumed me. Her heartbreak, palpable in the echo of a wedding called off, a future together dissolved into tears and recriminations. The fallout was immediate and merciless, a wildfire of gossip and judgment that swept through our circle, leaving scorched earth in its wake. Public humiliation clung to me like a second skin, a constant reminder of the folly of my actions. Whispers followed me in the streets, eyes averted in disdain or locked in a stare loaded with unspoken censure. My affair partner, once a co-conspirator in passion, now a fellow pariah, shared the mantle of disgrace as our names became synonymous with betrayal. In the end, the most devastating consequence was the alienation from my best friend, the severing of a bond that had once seemed unbreakable. Our friendship, built on years of shared secrets and laughter, lay in ruins, a casualty of my choices. The community we had both cherished now viewed me as an outsider, a persona non grata relegated to the fringes of the life I once led. Alone, I faced the mirror, confronting the architect of my downfall. The journey from recklessness to ruin was complete, a path I had paved with my own hands. The price of my actions was a life dismantled, relationships shattered beyond repair, and the harsh lesson that some mistakes carve out voids too vast to ever fill again. The silence of our once shared home was deafening, a stark reminder of the void left in the wake of my actions. I sat there, amidst the remnants of a life I had irreparably damaged, the weight of my choices pressing down on me like a physical force. It was in these quiet moments of solitude that the reality of what I had lost truly began to sink in. My marriage, once a source of comfort and joy, had crumbled under the weight of my betrayal. The pain I had caused my husband, the man I had vowed to stand by through thick and thin, was a burden I would carry with me forever. In the aftermath, I watched him embark on a journey of healing, a path I knew I had no right to walk beside him. The decision to start over was his alone, a necessary step towards reclaiming the life I had shattered. I heard about the divorce proceedings through hushed whispers and legal documents, each word a reminder of the finality of our separation. The affair, once a secret shared in the shadows, was now at the center of our undoing, a stark testament to the consequences of my actions. When he decided to move away, I felt both a profound sadness and a flicker of hope. sadness for the distance that would now physically manifest between us, and hope that he might find the peace and happiness that I had robbed him of. His departure marked the end of our shared story, closing a chapter that I had once believed would span a lifetime. Through the turmoil and heartache, I watched from afar as he found closure, accepting the end of our marriage as a part of his past. His journey, though fraught with pain, led him towards acceptance and, ultimately, healing. It was a path I knew I too needed to embark upon, albeit alone. As I sat in the silence of our empty home, I realized that this was not just the end of our marriage but the beginning of a long and difficult journey towards self-forgiveness. The betrayal that had led to our downfall was a part of me that I would need to confront and understand if I ever hoped to move forward. In the shadow of my husband's departure, I was left to navigate the aftermath of my actions, a journey of introspection and growth that I hoped would one day lead me to my own closure and acceptance. The dawn of each new day brought with it a reminder of the chaos I had wrought, a life once filled with love and companionship now overshadowed by the consequences of my betrayal. It was in these early hours, amidst the solitude of my own making, that the full weight of my actions settled upon me. The regret was palpable, a constant companion whispering reminders of what I had lost. I heard through the grapevine that my husband had begun to date again, a step towards moving on that I both dreaded and desperately hoped for. The thought of him finding happiness was a double-edged sword, cutting deep with the reality of our irrevocable separation while offering a sliver of solace in knowing he might heal from the wounds I had inflicted. In my quest for redemption, I reached out to those I had hurt, starting with my best friend. The conversation was one of the hardest I had ever initiated, a delicate dance around the shards of our shattered trust. "I'm so sorry," I began, my voice barely above a whisper. "I understand if you can't forgive me, but I needed you to hear it from me." Her response was a silence that spoke volumes, a chasm between us that words could not bridge. The ripple effect of the affair extended beyond my personal relationships, tarnishing my professional reputation as well. Colleagues who once greeted me with warm smiles now offered nothing but cold shoulders, a daily reminder of the scandal that had eclipsed my achievements. Networking events became minefields, each interaction laced with the underlying tension of whispered judgments. The social circle that had once embraced me now fractured, sides taken, with many aligning themselves with my husband. The loss of mutual friends was a casualty of the war one had waged against my own marriage, leaving me to navigate the battlefield alone. In my isolation, the search for ways to make amends became my focus, though the path to redemption was cluttered with obstacles. Community service and therapy sessions became my refuge, small steps towards rebuilding a life that had crumbled under the weight of my decisions. Yet, the shadow of the scandal loomed large, a barrier to the forgiveness I sought from others and, more crucially, from myself. The journey was a solitary one, the stigma of my actions a barrier to reconnecting with those around me. Invitations dwindled, social gatherings ceased, and the vibrant social life I once knew was replaced by quiet evenings alone, reflection my only company. In the stillness, I confronted the reality of my situation, the hard truth that some bridges, once burned, could never be fully rebuilt. Despite the isolation, the work of piecing together the fragments of my life continued. Each day offered a chance for small victories, moments of clarity and growth amidst the ruins. The road to redemption was long and fraught with setbacks, but it was a path I was committed to walking, driven by the hope that, in time, I could forge a new beginning from the ashes of my past. The morning light crept through the curtains, casting a glow on the remnants of a life I once cherished. Sitting at the edge of my bed, the weight of my choices bore down on me, a relentless reminder of the chaos I had caused. The silence of the house echoed the turmoil within me, a constant battle between regret and the yearning for redemption. "How did I get here?" I whispered into the void, my voice a mere shadow of the woman I once was. Driven by a desperate need to mend the broken pieces, I reached out to my husband, my fingers trembling as I dialed his number. The phone rang, each tone a heartbeat, until his voice, cold and distant, filled the silence. "I just need a chance to explain," I pleaded, clutching onto the hope of forgiveness like a lifeline. But his response was a closed door, a firm, "There's nothing to discuss," that shattered any illusion of reconciliation. In the days that followed, the reality of my actions settled around me like a shroud. The affair, a mistake I could never undo, had caused a ripple effect of pain and betrayal, touching every corner of my life. Friends who once filled our home with laughter now crossed the street to avoid me, their eyes averted, their judgment clear. My professional life, too, suffered under the weight of whispered gossip and sideways glances, my achievements tarnished by the scandal of my personal failings. The journey towards self-forgiveness was a path marred with obstacles. Guilt was a constant companion, a voice in my head reminding me of the hurt I had caused, the trust I had broken. Can I ever forgive myself? Became a daily meditation, a question without an easy answer. Determined to find a way forward, I sought help, immersing myself in therapy sessions that peeled back the layers of my actions, exposing the raw, uncomfortable truths of my choices. Community service became a refuge, a way to give back, to make amends in whatever small way I could. Each act of service, each session spent unraveling the why of my actions, was a step towards the person I wanted to become, a woman who understood the depth of her mistakes and was committed to change. Starting over was no simple task. My past preceded me, a shadow that lingered in every new interaction, every opportunity for a fresh start. Rebuilding a life from the ashes of my downfall was a challenge that tested every ounce of my resolve. But it was in this struggle, this process of self-improvement and seeking forgiveness, first from myself and then from those I had hurt, that I found a semblance of peace. The path was long and fraught with setbacks, but with each step, I moved closer to becoming a version of myself I could be proud of. A version that understood the value of trust, the weight of choices, and the power of redemption. The sun hadn't yet breached the horizon, but I was already wide awake, a mind in turmoil despite the stillness of dawn. Today marked the beginning of a journey I never anticipated embarking on. A quest for a new identity, one not marred by the scandal that had defined my recent past. The road ahead was daunting, paved with the necessity of facing those I had hurt and the community that had turned its back on me. My first steps were tentative, fueled by a mixture of determination and dread. Therapy sessions became my sanctuary, a place where I could unravel the threads of my past actions and weave together the fabric of a new future. Healing is a journey, not a destination, my therapist reminded me, her words a mantra I clung to through moments of doubt and despair. Yet, the community's rejection was a bitter pill to swallow. The places and faces that once welcomed me now served as reminders of the pariah I had become. The market, the library, even the park where I used to jog, all became no-go zones, the stares and whispers too much to bear. The realization hit me hard. If I was to find peace, I needed a fresh start, a place unburdened by the weight of my past. The decision to relocate was both liberating and terrifying, a leap into the unknown, driven by the hope of new beginnings. Accountability became my guiding principle. Owning up to my mistakes, understanding their impact on those around me, was a painful but necessary step toward healing. I reached out to those I had wronged, not with the expectation of forgiveness, but with the need to express my remorse sincerely. "I'm truly sorry," I found myself repeating, each apology a small stitch in the fabric of my new life. Loneliness was an ever-present shadow, a reminder of the relationships and connections severed by my actions. The nights were the hardest, the silence a stark contrast to the laughter and warmth that once filled my home. Yet, it was in this solitude that I found the strength to reflect, to acknowledge the full extent of my loss, my marriage, my friendships, the very essence of who I had once been. Moving forward, despite the setbacks, became my daily mission. Small victories, securing a job in my new town, joining a community group, even making a new acquaintance, were milestones that marked my progress. Each step, no matter how small, was a testament to my resolve to rebuild my life from the ground up. Forgiving myself was perhaps the most formidable challenge. The guilt and shame, constant companions, were barriers to self-compassion. Yet, I knew that without forgiveness, healing was impossible. "You deserve compassion too," my therapist would say, her words slowly chipping away at the walls I had built around my heart. Amidst the struggle, a glimmer of hope remained. The hope for redemption, for the chance to demonstrate that people can change, that they can learn from their mistakes and emerge stronger, wiser. It was this hope that fueled my efforts, a beacon guiding me through the darkest moments. In the end, acceptance became my salvation. Accepting the consequences of my actions, understanding that some bridges were forever burned, allowed me to focus on the present, on living with integrity and purpose. The path to redemption was fraught with challenges, but it was a path I walked with my head held high, a testament to the resilience of the human